There are a lot of definitions of big data, and I don't think there's a generally accepted definition yet. If you go sort of with the McKinsey approach, you would be looking at big data is something that three V's: volume, variety, and velocity. There's a lot of it. It moves very fast and it's multiple sourced. One of the keys that they talk about with big data is that you couldn't process it all on one machine and you need special technologies to do it. My view of big data in the context of HR would simply be to say that big data means using all the data that is available to you to help you improve the performance of your workforce. So generally we tend not to use movement, patterns, trends in the workforce, personality, psychological data, demographics, etc. Big data is really using all the data that you can possibly legally use in order to improve workforce performance. Many benefits. In commercial organizations, HR has often not been able to demonstrate its financial contribution to the organization, and therefore as human capital, people costs in many organizations are approaching 50% of operating costs. Boards are now saying you need to justify why why do we need to give you that kind of budget. So for the first time we're seeing HR needing to justify what is the financial contribution. Big data and analytics is a way that HR can finally start to do that. So that's an enormous benefit for HR, is bringing them to the table in the same way that production and other business functions have to be able to show the value of what they're contributing to maintain their budget. With what Matt was saying as an example of a predictive model. With Rentokil 2 years ago, they were having an issue with sales generation. We created a model where we profiled the existing sales force globally. So every country had a demographic profile, much like the FBI would profile sort of, whatever the FBI profiles. And we looked at personality and demographic features and so on. And we built a recruitment process around that, which allowed Rentokil to choose people who fitted this profile very accurately. And within 2 years, we got a 30% increase in revenues generated by the people recruited via that system compared to what people who hadn't been recruited via that system. Now, that's pure modeling, that's pure use of analytics, that's pure use of data. There's quite a bit of effort to build the model, but that was a great application of a predictive model, which had a real a financial, tangible benefit and made HR look really good because they were the ones who initiated it. So I think it can be done. So recruitment is one area where big data is very useful. I think one of a less obvious challenge, I'm not so sure that HR is as readily accepted in many organizations. I think we're preaching to the converted with the panel here. In many organizations, HR does struggle to have a place on the top table. One of the issues is that big data takes away some decision making in some senses, because you can start automating. In the Rentokil example, we were able to predict far further down the line, before we needed to do much interviewing, whether someone was effective or not. Friends Provident, when we were looking at engagement, we could, for example, look at employee characteristics to predict engagement fairly accuracy. So there's something about decision making is pushed down into the process, is one point. Another point is that metrics and analytics tends to create a huge degree of transparency in organizations. If your processes, your HR processes, if your development, if your recruitment, if your engagement, if your succession planning are not successful, there is no question that once you start finding the right metrics, as we've been talking about today, those will become known that you are not succeeding. However, in order to succeed, you've got to acknowledge where are you today in order for you to raise the bar. And to avoid people seeing where we are today is often a huge inhibitor to starting in the analytics process, because that transparency may not be desirable initially.
That's interesting.